Hello, welcome to Indie Tutorials. My name is Guillermo and I would like to thank the patrons supporting this channel. Let's start by heading into orkframework.com page, and from here we're going to select the guides, then tutorials, and then we have this 3D RPG Quick Start. So select the Start 3D RPG Quick Start link, scroll all the way down until you find the download complete tutorial project and click on that one. Once it's downloaded, I have here in the desktop, I will uncompress it. I will open the folder, and because this project was made in Unity 2020, I will use my command file in order to upgrade this project to 2021. So let me edit the command line project here. I will paste the path over here, and I will choose in this case 2021.3.1. Save the file and double click it. It will execute a Unity editor and it will upgrade this project. I'll come back when it's done. Okay, so now that the project has been created, we can see here in the window Game is Love, Machinum, that we have the latest version. Of course, this is the trial version, or the free version, let's say. We'll click on save. There is nothing to save. What I will do is, just to avoid any issues like the documentation or the tutorial says, I will go into Game is Love, Machinum 2, and I will trigger the re-import of this folder with all the libraries in it. And after that, I will also do the same for the tutorial assets. The underscore created folder we need to re-import, just to avoid any issues when the references are broken. Okay, so let's wait for Unity to do its synth, and let's click on tutorial assets. Still doing something. And click on created and select re-import. There we go. So the next step is we are going to, now that we have the project, we can play it to see if everything is working properly. So let's click on play. We are in the start menu and we have the menu here. So we have new game. Let me change the aspect to HQD. This is the one that works with ORK framework all the way. So we have the world and we can move around. Okay, so tutorial is working, the demo tutorial. The next step is to import Pixel Crusher's dialog system. So either if you already purchase it or you buy it from the Unity Asset Store, you can do that, or if you also want to use the trial version, if you scroll down here in the page, we have there is this free trial link that will send you to this page, and from here you can download an evaluation version of the dialog system. I have not tested with this package, but if you don't want to pay for the full product yet, you can try this one, and perhaps you can also follow along using this version, this evaluation version. Okay, bear in mind that this one requires TextMesh Pro, but again, since we are using the ORK tutorial, it already has TextMesh Pro installed, so nothing to worry about. So the next step will be to open the package manager and install the dialog system if you bought it. Okay. Open up the package manager, then go to your assets, or my assets in this case, and select the dialog system to import it into the project. From here I will select everything, even the examples. So let's just click on import everything. Once imported, we can now close the package manager, and now we have under the plugins folder Pixel Crusher dialog system. So the next step is to import the integration that comes with dialog system. There are two Unity packages that we need to import. So if we click on third-party support, the first one, if you scroll down, you will see the Machinome support, because remember that ORK cannot live without Machinome, but Machinome can live without ORK. So it's totally dependent of the Machinome integration itself. Double click this Machinome support package and click on import. It will add several scripts and schematics for the Machinome engine, and then you can scroll down and you will see the ORK framework support. So double click on that one and import as well this integration package. This will create a new folder inside the assets folder, Pixel Crushers, dialog system, third-party support, Machinome, and ORK framework support. Okay. The next step is going to add the prefab for the dialog system into the start menu. It doesn't need to be in the start menu, it needs to be on the first scene that is running your game, because it will be a persistent game object. So either if you have a bootstrap scene before the ORK start menu, then you need to add the dialog system on that scene. Okay, so let's continue. To add the dialog manager, we have two ways. One, if going into the dialog system folder, then we have prefabs, and then we have this pre-made dialog manager that we can just drag and drop into the scene, or we can go through tools, Pixel Crushers, dialog system, wizards, and dialog manager wizard. Of course, for convenience and speed, just drag and drop the prefab, the already made prefab, and then we can edit and change everything from the inspector itself. By default, the prefab is using this basic standard dialog UI that we are going to cover in a bit. But what we need to add to this prefab is the bridge between dialog system and ORK framework. So click on add component and start typing ORK, and then we should see this dialog system ORK bridge. So add that component to the prefab itself. After that, we can start building our first dialog, but before that, let's prepare the next scene, the town scene, in order to create our initial database. So let's go to the tutorial settings, or tutorial assets, sorry. And sorry, I believe this is in the scenes folder actually. So let's save the start menu as it is and double click on the world scene. Then from here we can select the spawn point 0. So this is where the main player is going to be spawned, and click on F keyboard to focus this game object. There we go. So what we're going to do here is to add an NPC over here and another item to showcase triggering schematics from the dialog system. Okay, so for that, let's select one of the NPCs that we have in the tutorials assets. So that will be over here. Then we have quaternions, NPCs, FBX, and let's select, I don't know, for example, this guy here, drag and drop it into the scene, and let's rotate a little bit on the Y so it's facing where the player is going to be spawned, like so. And what I will do for the sake of this tutorial is just rename this to green pants, and I will change the materials accordingly. So let's select character mature body, yeah, from here. So the pants material, and I will change the color, yeah, green pants, and let's change also the shirt. Yeah, why not? Something that is going to stand up, right? So the next step is to add the prop that we are going to use for the second segment of the tutorial. Let me check what it is. So props, medieval weapons. Quaternions, scene assets, medieval village pack, props, FBX, and let's add the cauldron. Yeah, over here, something like that. Why not? And we can keep the same name, no worries. So now we have the two elements that we are going to use for the dialogue system. So for now, let's save the scene and go back to the main menu scene where we have the dialogue prefab, the dialogue manager. So this is in the scenes folder and the start menu. Click on the dialogue manager, and then we can click on the wizard or create a brand new initial database. And let's save this database into, I will save it here, Pixel Crushers, dialogue system, third-party support, ORK framework support, and put it here, right? And for the sake of to be aligned with the project, let's call this one ORK dialogue database. There we go. So now a new window will pop up. You can specify some properties like who's creating this dialogue and so on and so forth. I will not bother on that one, but I will go to the actors tab here. By default we have the player. The player will be always the leader of the group, of the active group in ORK framework. So let's add a new entry here, and for the new actor 2, let's call this one green pants. Come on, green pants, if I can type. There we go. I'm not going to cover quest items, nor locations, nor variables right now. Quest items, we are going to cover it on another video, but using the quest machine from Pixel Crusher as well. So let's go into conversations, and here is where we are going to build our conversation between the main player and green pants. Alright, so let's click on this plus button to create a new conversation. Right away we have the new conversation 1, which is displayed here in the inspector. So let's change the title of this conversation, and let's call this one green pants conversation. And automatically you can see that we have the main actor and the conversant, which is a green pants that we created in the actors section. So this is the start point of our conversation. If we click on the start, end. So let's drag this guy over here and let's create a child node. And this is going to be the main entry of or the first conversation that we are going to have. So let's click on here in the dialog text and type something. So hi, I am Green Pants. Do you want some gold? Let's do that like that. And now from here we can create another child for branching this question. Okay, so the first one is going to be in the dialog text we can type sure, I want gold, and the second option is going to be no thanks, we don't want gold. If I can type again, thanks. And something to notice is if I were to click here in the hi, I'm Green Pants, you can see that the actor changed altogether to be the first Green Pants in this case. He's the one asking, and then the conversion in this case is the player. But if we choose any of these child nodes, it's the opposite. Now the player is or the system dialog is expecting the answer for the player to Green Pants. So this is something that you need to check constantly when adding more complex dialogue to select the proper actors. Okay, so let's, in the sure branch, let's create a new child node here, and let's select for this one the answer for Green Pants is going to be, okay, so here you go, 5 gold or 5 coins of gold. So now we are going to use a system dialog Lua function in order to set the currency of the main player and add these 5 coins of gold to the inventory of the ORK player. So the list of all these Lua ORK specific Lua functions can be found in the documentation. So if I go back to the main page in the asset store, we can see the docs link, and then from here we see the integration, third-party integration, and down below ORK framework support. And if we scroll down, we can see all the functions that we can use. In this case, we are going to use the inventory functions, and will be the ORK set currency when we need to pass the combatant. In this case is our player, and we have a sample here. So the player, the item or the currency item, inventory item name in ORK framework, and how many are we going to pass. It is as simple as that. So if you go back to the dialog system, make sure that you are in the right node selected, and down below we have in the script section, and let's type ORK set currency. Again, we pass the player as the sample we saw, the name of the item, gold, and the quantity. So this will be 5, and we want to increase the current quantity that the player had, right? So let's check it out quickly where this information is coming from. So let's click on Machinome and then go to inventory and currencies, and we have this currency gold. So this is the name that we are setting here. Okay, and after that to increase the currency that the player already have, we need to retrieve the ORK the currencies. So let's type ORK get currency. So be careful with the spelling here. ORK get currency, and we need to pass whose currency, so player, and the gold is the name of the currency itself, and double brackets to close the statement. And we can see here in the node that we have this green arrow, so this is an indication that is executing a script afterwards. Okay, so after we have here you go, FI currency, we can do in the opposite side the for the no thanks answer. We can click on this node and select, in this case in the dialog text, let's say okay. Come back later. If you need any gold, or if you need gold, this answer is coming from green pants, so make sure that green pants is selected over here. Okay, so after that we can end the dialog. So let's create another child here, so this is going to be our end, and from here in the dialog text it says let's add thanks and bye, see you later. So this is going to be our end, so we can link up from this node. So click the make link and drag it onto the thanks by node, and at the same time we can actually also create another branch here. So create another child, and let's use this one to ask another question, or green pants to ask the player to ask to green pants whether we can use the cauldron. So this is the second part of the tutorial, where we trigger a schematic from the dialog system. So the player is going to ask green pants, before we part, may I use your cauldron? And for this case, in the script section for this node, we are going to use the ORK start Lua function start, and this function is expecting a game, the name of the game object that contains an auto machine schematic. So remember that this is for auto machine schematic. So let's call this one Cauldron. Be careful with the spelling. And the second parameter is going to be either empty. If we leave it empty, it's going to be defaulted to the player, to the leader of the active group in the ORK framework, or we can specify it like player, like so, or just leave it empty, since we know that it's going to be the main player in this case. Alright, so ORK start Cauldron, this is the game object that is going to have an auto machine and is going to run a schematic in this auto machine. Okay, and of course we need to link also, let's link from here. Here you go. When we accept the gold, we can also ask this question about using the cauldron. So let's just create a make link and drag it over here. You notice though that I type all these functions because they were simple enough, but yet again, if you have a more complex functionality, you could at any time, you see this script section here, just click these three buttons to start the open to open the Lua wizard, and from here you can click the plus button, and then in the set section we have a drop down. We can select from here the custom section, and in the custom section, in this case, because we enable integration for Machinum and ORK, we have access to the function. So for example, ORK start, and then we can type the two parameters it's expecting here. Okay, so it's the same thing at the end. I will click on revert and just keep it simple like so. So now we have our first dialog. Now we can start building the functionality in the ORK schematics or Machinum schematics, and also in the world scene. So let's continue. Now that we have our first dialog, let's just close this dialog editor and make sure in the dialog manager that is it has been assigned here in the ORK in this initial database. Okay, this is important. So let's switch back to the town scene, or the world scene, sorry. Let's save the changes, of course, and select green pants, and let's add this guy. Let's add a character controller component first of all, and let's just modify a little bit this capsule 1.5, 0.7 and 3 height. There we go. Let's add a interaction machine. This interaction is going to be of type interact. When we do a mouse up as a button, and now we need to create our schematic. That's all we need to do here. So let's click on create schematic, and let's add this one, or save it into Pixel Crushers, dialog system, third-party support. Let's create a brand new folder here, schematics, and let's call this one green pants conversation schematic. There we go. Now the Machinum editor will open, and from here in the main node, in the settings node, we want to add a couple of actors. So make sure you are selecting the main settings node and click on actors. Let's add, the first one is going to be of type ORK player, and the second we don't need the use scene object, and the second one is going to be the machine object as well. We don't care about the use scene object. Okay, so since we have the the integration installed, we have now a new nodes, so we can start typing start conversation. There we go. So this is a new node that comes with system dialog, and link it up. And from the start conversation, the only thing that we need to pass here is the name of our conversation that we made in the dialog manager, and if you remember, it's called green pants conversation. Okay, so the first, or the conversation actor, is going to be our ORK player, actor 0, and the conversant is going to be the machine object, or the game object having this machine. Okay, so let's save the schematic, and that's all we need here. It's already assigned. The next thing that we are going to do as well is to, after the conversation finish, or yes, after the conversation is end, we are going to trigger or use an event or dialog system event to show a notification about how many gold we have. So let's add that, and we are going to need a dialog system event component. So dialog system events component, and from here we have different events that we can play with. In this case, let's select the conversation event. So we have the on start, the on conversation start, on conversation end. This is the one that we want to use. And for that, let's create a child game object in green pants that is going to contain another interaction machine, so we can trigger that one. So let's create empty, and let's call this one show gold alert event. So this game object is going to have a interaction machine, and we need, of course, to create a new schematic for this interaction machine. And before creating the schematic itself, because this is going to be triggered by another event, we can leave everything here in the auto or the start settings unchecked. So let's create the schematic, and let's place it once again over here, and let's call this one show gold alert schematic. Machinome editor will open, and from here we are going to call another dialog system node. In this case is called the show alert, and in the alert text we are going to type some text and then call another Lua function, right? So let's type, sorry, you have square brackets Lua, and the function is going to be ORK get currency that we saw previously. Be careful with the spelling. We need to pass the player and the currency item name gold, right? So this is the first square brackets, second one to close the Lua function, then square brackets to close calling the Lua function, and finally we can say here gold. Save the schematic, and then we can choose how many time the time we want to this pop-up notification to show. Let's say 3 seconds. Close the editor, and it's assigned here. So that's the only thing that we need for this interaction machine. Let's go back to green pants and collapse a little bit these elements, and from the on conversation end we just need to drag drop the game object that has the interaction machine in this case. So this is the show gold alert event. So let's drag drop it here. The function that we are going to call is in the interaction machine component, and it's going to be the start machine. The start machine is expecting a game object, so let's drag our green pants game object into it, and that's all we need. So let's save the changes on the scene, and now let's build the logic for the cauldron. So let's select the cauldron game object. So we have mesh render, the mesh render, the materials. we need a collider, of course. I believe I probably selected the wrong prefabs or just the meshes. We needed actually the prefabs. So let's fix that one just quickly. So let's delete the Cauldron game object here and just drag the prefab from the props, okay? And we need now to place it where we have it before. Backspace, delete this guy, not like so, and Cauldron, there we go. So now we have a prefab with a mesh collider on it. That's what we want. Let's add a auto machine. Remember, this one needs to be an auto machine. We can leave the start type unchecked because we are going to trigger the start from this from the dialog system itself. So let's create now a new schematic. Let's go back again, Pixel Crusher, dialog system, third-party support, and let's call this one Cauldron schematic. Let's edit the schematic. And what we're going to do here is, instead of calling system dialog, the system dialogs, we are going to call the standard or the ORK frameworks, just to show you that you can interact with both at the same time. So of course, in this case, for the ORK is show dialog node. Let's link it up. And from here we want to change the dialog type to choice, and then the UI box is going to be the dialog UI box. Scroll all the way down, and in the text section let's edit the text and let's type something like looks like you can create new potions here, because it's a cauldron, right? Click OK, and now we need to create our choices. So let's scroll down and let's add a couple of choices. The first one is going to be create potions, lowercase, right? Potions. And the second option is going to be nah. There we go. So when we choose create potions, we can actually open a menu window or menu part here, or menu dialog from the UI settings. Yet again, this tutorial does not have the crafting menu set up, so let's just call the inventory menu, something like that. So let's type the call menu screen and link it up. And the menu screen that we are going to open when we choose create potions in this case is going to be inventory. Let's see what happens, and keep the weight checked. Later on, of course, if you want to build your own crafting menu screen, then you can call it from here as well. So let's save this schematic, close this up, and make sure that the schematic is bind here in the schematic asset for the Cauldron game object. Right, so let's save the changes in the scene. Now we can proceed to test. Okay, so let's go back to the menu scene. Scenes, start menu. Let's click on play. select new game, and oops, okay, so what happened with green pants? Okay, so it's set to play the death animation by default, so let's change that quickly. Let's go to world, green pants, we want the idle animation. Boop, there we go. Save the changes. Let's go back to the start menu scene, click on play. New game. Okay, let's go there and click on the guy, and there we have green pants. Hi, I'm green pants, do you want some gold? So actually let's do one thing, let's do a no thanks. Okay, come back later if you want some gold, thanks, bye. And this is what we currently have, 50 gold, and we can check that by pressing the F1 key to go to the inventory and then valuables. Let me make this a little bit bigger. This is what we have, 50 gold, right? So let's go back, close the main menu or the inventory menu, and then let's click on this guy again. Do you want some gold? Sure. So here you go, 5 cone of gold, sorry. Let's do a thanks, bye for now, and now you have 55 gold. If we press F1 once again, inventory, valuables, now we have 55, so successfully added to our inventory these 5 coins. Let's close this up and let's do it one more time. Sure. Here you go, 5 more coins, and in this case, before we part, may I use your cauldron? And now we have the standard dialog from ORK system that we created. Looks like you can create new potion here, create potions, or now. If we select create potions, remember that it's going to trigger the call menu, in this case the inventory menu, because it's not set up or not ready to be called like so. This is why we get no potions here at all. But anyways, this showcase all we wanted in this series, in this video. Next one is going to be other integrations, and also I have in my to-do list the quest machine, to use quest machine instead of ORK quest system. Before propping up the video, I forgot to mention about the UI Prefabs that comes with a dialog system. So in case you wanted, and of course you are going to want, you will want to change those to match your game design. So let's click on this basic standard dialog UI. If we were to double click on the prefab itself, this is the UI that we are showing during the dialogues. So we have NPC name, subtitle, alert message, and so on and so forth. The dialog system comes with several other prefabs that we can play with, and of course you will end up building your own. But let's say, for example, in the standard UI prefabs, in the pro section, if you have the full product, I guess, let's click on new core, let's click on the runic, and from here let's select this runic standard dialog UI and drag and drop it on the inspector. From this option, just select use prefab, save the changes, and let's run once again to see how it looks. So let's select new game, run to green pants and click on it, and then we have this new UI. So you want gold? Yes, I want gold. Here you go. Thanks, bye. And there is the notification using the runic UI template. Okay, so that will cover this basic dialogue system integration that I wanted to show you as per one of my veterans' requests. Next on the series of integrations, we have pending the GameKit controller. I want to show you also how to integrate the Quest machine from Pixel Crushers, and there is another RPG camera character controller that I want to showcase. But anyways, see you on the next time. Bye bye.